So my name is Cedric Kiefer, and I'm from Berlin, and I run a design studio called Informative, and we are mostly focusing on using generative design principles to create digital art and design.
During your lecture, you told a lot about some background which you need to have some meaning in your work. Can you tell more about it?
I think this is an important issue in design in general. So creating something that is more than just beautiful to look at. So creating not only eye candy or using algorithms which are hard to program but are kind of meaningless. So I always try to look for a little bit of a background and concept, even if the concept is not visual at first, or it doesn't necessarily have to be visible at all. But I think having a strong concept and a background adds something to the work in any way. So not only to the visual side, also to the conceptual side. It just gets better overall, I would say. Well, that's a really hard question. I don't think that it has something to do with computer or computer design or computer art. It is the same in any art discipline. So there are people who are painting, but they're not artists. Or are they artists? I don't know. Maybe they are. So when is a painting starting to become an artwork? Is it when somebody really knows how to draw, if he has some technical skills? I don't know, because a lot of people in contemporary art, abstract art, are considered artists, and all they do is just draw a black square. So when does it become art? I don't know exactly, and I think it's a hard decision, hard discussion, and it's the same in digital art as well. So I know that there are a lot of people working in the generative design field, in the digital art field, who do it as a side project, more like playing around. I think it has something to do with how serious you actually do it, and there are people who do it also way more serious than I do, or that we do in our studio. I mean, we also do a lot of commercial work, and some people might consider our commercial work not to be arty at all. Or can you actually be an artist if you work commercially? I don't know, but I think it's a hard decision. But I think there's no difference between using the computer as a tool to create art or using traditional tools like paint to create art. I think both enables you to create art or not. I mean, there's no difference in the technique. There's just the difference in the meaning, the effort you put into it.
The message.
The message, exactly. Well, I think the fear definitely comes from the unknown. So things that you're not used to. So let's say if you think back 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. I mean, 30 years ago, people didn't know about the internet, obvious. So some stuff that is totally normal to us today would have, or maybe probably already afraid them back then. I mean, I just remember one thing. Yesterday I was taking some pictures here at the Red Square, and 5 seconds later Google commented on that picture and told me what it is. So I got a feedback from Google telling me what they were seeing on my pictures, and it is a kind of scary, or it was scary to me when that happened the first time. But now this is a nice feature that I'm used to, and it's the same with everything else. I mean, people start to get comfortable with new technologies quite quickly. I mean, people are scared about computer knowing too much about the data, and now everybody's actually tracking their position with fitness bands and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's probably a danger, but I think people get used to a lot, and I'm not really afraid of it at all. I think this already happens now. I mean, just like advertising, marketing, this happens. People use data. I mean, this is where the term big data comes from, or where it is heavily used. using data sets to actually, I mean, there are companies making billions of dollars just by analyzing data. I mean, this is what Google does. This is their whole business model, analyzing data and selling advertising. And I think this could get worse. For example, analyzing data, personal data, to actually at some point decide if you actually get a health insurance or if you get a job, because people already know some things about you that they were able to gather from all the data sources. So this could become a problem, I would say. But it's the same with every technology. You can use it in a good way and a bad way, and it will be used in a good and a bad way. So I think it's hard question how that will turn out in the future. And that's a good question. I mean, there are probably some, as you just said, there are some things that are visible and that you just analyze or that you just find and discover when you work a lot with data, but you don't really understand what is going on there. Yeah. And it might happen that at some points we get an understanding of what is going on, and then we can actually predict it, which might be good. For example, we are currently working together with a finance company to visualize their algorithms that they use to predict market data, and they kind of understand it and use it to predict market changes, and this is how they make money. And I think in the future will also happen that maybe we don't necessarily have to understand how it happens, and this is maybe where a lot of machine learning comes in, where we just put so much data in the machine and the algorithm that it kind of creates its own understanding of how things work and happen, and we still don't understand it, but we are able to predict it with the help of the computer. But well, I don't know, it's still a good question. I think it's actually the opposite. I don't think that there's actually a gap between the rich and the poor when it comes to technology. I mean, at some point, yes, you have to be able to buy a computer, but I mean, just look on the street who is actually able to buy an iPhone. You look at the people and you wonder how they can actually buy something, but they still own an iPhone or a computer. I mean, everybody has a computer these days. And if you imagine or if you think back, I mean, I've seen some amazing and impressive work from just one individual guy doing computer on his laptop, sitting, I think he was actually from Russia somewhere, and he was able to create a whole movie. He was doing the music, he was doing the CG, he was doing all the cutting just on his home computer. And this is something that you were not able to do 10 years ago or 20 years ago. For a movie, you need a whole company. For a computer game, you need a company. Now having those tools and having stronger computers, and they are quite affordable, each individual artist can create something unique and can actually create something. I mean, yes, when it comes to bigger projects, you're not going to create a GTA-like game on your own, but still being able to, I mean, look at regular, it's not only with coding, it's with computer design in general, even using tools like After Effects or Premiere or Photoshop. One individual guy can create a full movie, and I think this is something that adds a lot of freedom and actually closes that gap and helps people to be creative without any boundaries. Well, yeah, I'm quite optimistic. I mean, times are changing a lot, and looking at how the world, what is going on in the world these days is chaotic, and some people are starting to get scared. But if you look back 50 years, it was kind of the same. We had some other crisis in the world. I mean, we had the Second World War, the First World War, and after that the Cold War, and I think even that is getting better through technology, because being able to communicate with people from all over the world, helps you to get closer together. And with understanding different people, talking to different people, you start to kind of feel alike, and I think that will help to. Technology will definitely help to get less conflicts. I cannot imagine let's say, a war to happen in Europe or between the US and Europe in the future, to be honest, because I think this is something that could have changed. I mean, I'm not sure. Who knows? Yeah, but I think if you look at all the protests that happened in the Middle East, for example, they were just possible through communication and technology, and this is why those regimes try to block technology, and this is why it happens everywhere. And technology just helps people to speak out, to connect, and it will definitely help to help every one of us to make a better living, I would say.